This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you they suck, but sometimes they don't. I'm Ashley, and it's officially the start of my favorite season.
I'm Carter, and I am hungover as hell. I was just at a friend's wedding, and there was a lot of celebration, and I feel like garbage.
Which is why we're here today.
Mm-hmm. So, Ashley, it may be her favorite season, but we are recording this October 2nd with the goal of having it out on, Wednesday, October 5th?
Yeah, we're turning it out.
And Wednesday doesn't count, so that gives me 2 full days and whatever's left of this Sunday to record this. So I'm stressed.
This is officially Carter's least favorite season because this will not be...
I love October. This is my first October with the Horror Sucks podcast.
I was going to say, this is not going to be the first fast turnout you will have in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, at least we got Barbarian out.
Yes, thank you for slaving over that one.
So what we are doing today is we are watching Smile, which is a new release. Just came out on
Friday.
Yeah, so we were very excited for it. We saw the ads early, and I thought it didn't look terribly original, but it looked good, so I was happy.
Yeah, I was very excited after watching the trailer. This has been on our list to do since, I want to say, pretty early on starting the podcast.
So, some notes to anyone who I know, I might have described this movie as the horror movie where Charlotte from Sex and the City is the main character. As it turns out, that is not... That is not Kristen Davis. It is Sosie Bacon, and
I need to process this because Sosie Bacon looks nothing like Kristen Davis.
They actually, I will hold that they have similar, like, very tight ponytails. They're very uptight characters.
Okay, all right. I will give you that, but they really...
Body language-wise and, like, the role they were playing, I guess I just totally thought they were the same person.
Okay. That just really...
Anyway, I'm sorry for that. So, here's how we do this podcast.
Yeah, for those of you who are new here.
So, what we do is we're going to describe the plot to you. We're going to give you some fun facts about the movie. By the way, there will be spoilers in the plot, just an FYI. After that, we are going to tell you what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we found spooky. Give you our overall thoughts, and then if there's any time left, we'll tell you what we're watching next week.
I love how you say if there's time left. Yeah. We tell them every week.
Well, there's always time left.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to kick us off with the plot. As Carter just said, there will be spoilers. So we start with Dr. Rose Carter, who is a psychiatrist at an emergency hospital, and she has a patient that comes in saying that something's after her and that she's going to die. And she's visibly stressed about it, but she keeps insisting that she's not crazy and that, you know, she's a PhD student. Like, she tells her that this entity started taunting her after she witnessed her professor bludgeon himself to death. And the patient escalates and she breaks a vase and uses the sharp edge to split her throat, and all while smiling and making direct contact with Rose. This obviously is very traumatic, and Rose is haunted by the experience. Or is it just the experience? So,
just tell us. You don't need to sound like a...
Don't make fun of me.
You don't need to be that dramatic.
Tell the story
you're right.
However I want to. Right. And I'm really tired, so it's going to be dramatic. So anyways, though, no, this entity that was haunting the patient starts haunting her. She has to take time off from the hospital because she is seeing things and it's interfering with her work. But this gives her the opportunity to go to her nephew's birthday party, who is the son of her very uptight organic sister. And she bought him a model train, but when he opened the gift, it was actually her dead cat who had gone missing the night before in an incident. So now she starts going to see her old therapist because she's upset about these hallucinations, and she wants medication. And she had started seeing this therapist when she was a child because her mother had committed suicide and she needed to deal with that trauma. And then the therapist won't give her any medication, so she starts looking into the death of the professor that the student had saw and realized that they had also seen someone kill themselves and that there's a pattern. And she enlists the help of her ex-boyfriend, who is a police officer, and he discovers that there's a pattern that goes back 20 people with 19 deaths. And it turns out that you end up either killing yourself in front of another witness, or you have to kill someone else in front of a witness. You need to create trauma to pass it on. So she decides to...
The turnover on that's, by the way, real quick. Like, they said that people died between 4 and 7 days.
Yeah.
So, like, even 20 people, that's not long.
No, this is what, a month?
Yeah.
Less than a month. So she decides to starve it and goes to the house that she grew up in, which is in the middle of the woods, upper New York. I don't know, actually.
I think it was, they said upstate. That's a very New York thing to say.
Yeah. While she's there, the entity taunts her as the face of her mother, and she has to face the fact that she caused her mother's death because she didn't call for help when her mother accidentally overdosed.
No, she intentionally overdosed.
Oh, okay.
Her mother tried to kill herself, but changed her mind and tried to get Rose to call the police, and Rose didn't.
Yeah. And from there, the entity transforms into a pretty horrific looking beast. Like, it grows to, 8 feet tall and just kind of tries to and attacks her. And she thinks she beats it, and escapes, but only wakes up when her ex shows up to the house. And at this point, she ends up losing the battle with the entity. And then she turns to her ex, smiles, and sets herself on fire. The end.
Yep. So, Ashley covered just about everything from the plot. I don't have much to add. This film was written and directed by Parker Finn. This is his directorial debut. It stars Sosie Bacon, Jesse Usher, Kyle Gallner, Caitlin Stacey, Cal Penn, and Rob Morgan. Biggest characters were Sosie Bacon and Jesse Usher. I didn't recognize any of their roles.
Oh, really? She looks familiar. I just can't put a name to it.
Yeah, Charlotte from Sex and the City.
No, she doesn't look like Charlotte from Sex and the City. That other actress who we've already talked about her. Oh, you weren't here. She was in Ouija. She looks like Charlotte from Sex and the City.
Okay. Oh, Jesse Usher was in The Boys. He plays A-Train. That's what I know him from.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen.
Anyway,
not the point.
You would know Cal Penn from, I believe he was Kumar in Harold and Kumar's Adventures. He might have been Harold, but I think he's Kumar.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh no. He's in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he's Kevin.
Yes.
Robin's brief boyfriend.
Wasn't he also in another sitcom?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I don't remember which one. Oh, he was also in Clarice, that procedural cop show that we fucking hated. So
that's a bit harsh.
It was bad, but it wasn't terrible. Anyway, so the movie was originally supposed to be released to Paramount Plus, but it did so well in test screenings that they're like, let's just release this to the movie-going public.
Huh.
So the weekend before the film's release, they bought several tickets to baseball games, Major League Baseball games behind home plate, and they had actors smile maniacally into the camera for extended periods of time just to help market the movie. There's a tie-in with the Crayon text-to-image generator that involved AI generations of images with nightmarish smiles. I have no idea what that means, the tie-in. I truly don't.
I don't understand that sentence at all.
I don't know what the tie-in is. What does that mean?
I don't know.
My best guess is that they used it for that artwork the man drew.
I guess that's probably
that's the only thing that makes sense to me. And lastly, by the way, a lot of the newer movies are going to have some pretty light facts because a lot of the interesting stuff tends to come out after the release
in like
Yeah.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah, we're not going to have a lot of cool facts about this.
Anyways.
Yeah. Interestingly, the cursed smile people always wear bright pastel color clothes, and Rose wears dark contrasting colors, which is the difference between happy and sad.
Oh, interesting.
I guess so. And that's it with the facts. So
Oh, wow.
let's get on. Yeah, there's not a lot. Like, I can't stress enough. This movie came out 3 days ago. I can't even tell you how much it made opening weekend because opening weekend isn't over.
Yeah.
There's so little
that's a good
I
point.
can even tell you.
We're really fresh off the press. I mean, we saw it a day early.
Yeah.
Like,
We saw it.
I'm glad they did it in theaters. All right, let's start with the good. The first thing I want to say is the music, the audio.
Okay. Wait a minute. Can we pause just for a second so I can add a track that goes, the good.
Yes. Sorry. Let's start with the good.
The good. Dun, dun, dun.
The first thing I want to talk about is the audio, and I want to go back to the fact where it said that they weren't going to release it in theaters. I do have a question to go along with this. Do you think they went through the audio and fixed it for theater production? Or do you just think that it would have been that, like, it's just that's how they did it?
What do you mean by that?
Well, so part of what's so great about the movie is the audio. They do a really good job with kind of playing with the sound and like the sound levels and all that stuff. So, and I think it would have been lost if it was just released to streaming because you're not going to listen in a theater grade quality versus your home.
I think it just would have been worse because that's true for every movie like that. Like Dune was a big movie where giant loud noises and then characters whispering, and it just is lost in the home theater. Same with A Quiet Place is sound. There's higher quality sound devices in a theater, so
I'm just surprised that the main element is audio and they weren't going to put it in the theater originally.
That's a good point, yeah. But
that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, the audio though was outstanding. They had some interesting sound only jump scares.
Yeah.
Like she was just sitting around drinking her wine and it was like building up to a jump scare, and then the alarm, her house alarm went off. And it was so loud. It was a jump scare, but there was nothing visual to it. But there was a deeper implication where once that initial shock wore off, you realized that means there's someone in the house.
Yeah, that was not only jump scare, that was also genuinely scary.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a good one.
There's the audiophile jump scare was really cool.
Oh my gosh, that memorable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just us because we spend some time looking at audio files, but that was so freaking cool.
So there's a scene where she's reviewing her audio file of hanging out with talking with the patient, and the patient says like, it's smiling at me, and she can hear but not see because it's an audio file. She can hear another sound there, so she keeps turning up the volume and listening closer and closer, and it's so faint even in a theater.
This is just a breath. It's just
I heard Rose. Maybe that was because I was looking for it.
Maybe
because then the jump scare.
Well, I was trying to see if it was saying anything and I couldn't think of anything, but it might have been like a whisper, and that's why
it was. I think it was her name, and so she leans in, she's listening, we're all braced for a jump scare, and this smiling person comes out in real life, not involving the computer or anything.
It's just like to her side, and she just goes, run. It was, oh my God.
It was spooky.
It was really good.
It scared the shit out of me.
I will say, Carter joked that I got real scared during Nope and like jumped a few times. Carter jumped a few times during this one.
And this was Nope was a different kind of scary. It wasn't even that scary, I would say. It was horror, but I wouldn't say it was that scary. Spooky for sure.
Listen.
It just wasn't a lot of jump scares.
No, there weren't a lot of jump scares in Nope, but the ones that were there scared me.
All right, that's fair.
This movie threw me off so much with the audio, though, because as Carter mentioned in the last episode, I cover my ears to not miss a jump scare. Or like, I want to visually see it. And because the audio was kind of all over the place, I couldn't time it very well because there was another really good audio one where it was really loud, stuff was happening, and then a split second it was quiet, and then immediately was loud again. And I honestly can't remember what it is. I think it was in the hospital or something, but it was so freaking good because you couldn't time it.
I wonder if that was intentional, like, for people trying to cover their ears. If they had a lot of things that made you listen before the jump scare. They didn't let you just brace, you had to be an active participant.
Yeah. The ending, I ended up missing a jump scare because I also closed my eyes because that's how, I was scared. But anyways, yeah, no, I really liked the audio. It was really good.
This might not be the most popular opinion, but I did really like the recurring smiles. They weren't done super well, but it was a nice reminder, I guess.
I think they weren't necessarily done poorly.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was as impactful as it needed to be. Because I think if it was any less when, like, the whole movie's about smiling and there's, like, not that much in it. Like, I understand the meaning, but come on. Yeah. So I think they have just the right level without it being too much.
Mm-hmm. I liked when it was subtle, like, or when it made sense. Like when she bought the train set, there were people on the box just smiling at her. When the smile chart, which I don't know for sure, but I believe that chart was actually made by Purdue Pharmaceutical to help them sell opiates.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's what my mom says. I have a long family history of not being able to trust stories from my mom's side of the family. My grandmother told me that Lyme disease was called that because the Nazi scientist who made it, his last name was Lyme. I don't think that's true. Anyway, my mom told me that was what they created that
chart for. That's pretty cool. I think that was the chart wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, because it was blue with a smile.
The colors aren't important. It's more.
I thought the colors coordinate with the emotions, but I guess I don't know. It looked off to me.
It wasn't your average smile thing. Usually they do yellow.
Yeah.
It's not weird to me, especially for a movie that it was different colors.
Okay, that's fair.
So I liked that. When the woman died, she like cut her throat and her body sheet, the blood formed like almost a smile.
Yeah.
That was really cool. What I didn't love was like the smiley face mug.
Yeah.
That was just too
That was a
easy.
bit too much, yeah. I liked all the people smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish there was more of that, but in a more subtle way. Because every time we did see a person smiling, it became a moment.
Yeah.
Versus, like, if she just saw someone smiling on the street, like, turned, looked, and then, like, looked again and it was stopping. That, I wish we had, like, one scene of that at the beginning.
She wasn't, like, haunted by these smiles so much as just...
aggressive torment.
They would appear and she would have to deal with them. It was never, like... It was never like one of her colleagues is doing it and she has to ignore it or something.
This entity didn't try to tease her. It was very straightforward that this is going to be torturous. Which, while I understand it, I wish there was a little bit of teasing, like a little bit of build to the drama of it.
I loved the camera work. It was creative.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, like, the camera would be tilted. It would follow a car, and then as the car drove by, the camera would invert and follow it from upside down. They would mess with the focus, so, like, they had two head-on shots where it was Rose talking with the girl who would kill herself, and they would, like, lean in and lean out, and they would be in and out of focus. It was interesting. I don't know that I loved it, but it was unique.
I liked it. I thought there was also, like, a lot of different perspectives of, like, filming, and what I mean by that, like, different perspective of the shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'd get different close-ups, and it was they did a really good job of using that to create intensity without like creating drama.
Mm-hmm. All around, it was a pretty tense movie.
Yeah.
They played with the sound well enough that I was always on edge.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And that was intentional, that the movie tried to make you feel like something bad could happen at any moment.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I liked about the sister walking to the car. It was in the trailer. She walks up, like leans in like she's going to say something, and her head just inverts.
Oh my God.
I liked that as the monster thing is really just trying to torment her.
Yeah.
I liked that.
It's not messing with her. It's really trying to cause her trauma.
Yeah. It served no purpose except to make her feel
miserable,
scared, miserable. And I liked that, but they just didn't elaborate. The monster had a very like tangible goal it was trying to accomplish, and it wasn't as spooky.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the storyline. Well, I know you mentioned that it wasn't super original, and I agree with that, but to be honest, I think it was a very good take on a classic storyline.
I didn't think it was original, but that's not a knock because most of horror isn't.
Yeah.
My friend Liam gets on me about I was describing this character that like could see the future, but no one believed her. And he's like, that's just Cassandra. It's all of fiction is just built off of tropes from previous better movies.
Right.
Like
we've gotten to a point, I think, where like less originals are going to be coming out.
Well, I mean, I don't even want to knock it like that. That's just how fiction works.
Right.
Like Tolkien invented elves, right?
Right.
So it's really not that. It's not even an indictment of the quality. It just, that's how fiction works, is someone borrows a little bit of you, and if it's good enough, they steal a lot of it.
Yeah. It's an expectation.
Yeah. It's just the evolution of storytelling. Is
right.
It borrows pieces. So I don't really care that it was very similar to The Ring.
No.
I don't care about that at all.
I didn't either. No, I liked the storyline.
But the problem is they just didn't do anything different.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a knock on the movie. I
did enjoy how fast the movie moved.
That was my next thing. The pace was perfect.
It was really good.
It was almost like we really didn't get a whole lot of like defining moments of like, this is a new day, this is a new day. But she's in the car at one moment and she's like, oh, 4 days have passed. Like, and I was like, whoa. But that's how like kind of real time works. Sometimes you blink and you're like, whoa, it's been 4 days since Monday. Like, what am I doing?
That is a knock I had on this movie.
Really?
Is a time sensitive thing happening in the movie means that you need to give someone some way of tracking the time. It wasn't getting notably worse.
Yeah, that's true.
It is like they increased in severity, but it wasn't like there was no moment where you're like, she's running out of time. Is they just kept getting.
Well, we didn't
aggressive.
really find out about the time constraint though until it's revealed that it's been 4 days.
Well, yeah, but then afterwards they didn't.
Yeah, because a day didn't pass.
There was no this didn't happen on the 4th day.
Oh, that was my impression.
No, because like she scheduled a meeting with her therapist and then drove out to the country in the sunset again. It was at least another day, probably a couple.
I guess that's a fair point because that's when they were in the car. You're right.
I did like though. There's one scene where she's in the car outside of like a Burger King or something, just absolutely chowing down on some fast food, and I thought that was some pretty good storytelling of like she's clearly stressed, clearly letting herself go because she doesn't feel like she has a lot of time left.
But also like I also liked it too because I don't think she felt she could be around people because she couldn't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know who she could trust, so she was just like, I need to eat in my car, like I can't be around anyone.
Mm-hmm. And then probably the one of the final good things I have to say about this movie is I really, really enjoyed the fact that they showed her putting on makeup. Because she was literally, like, you could visibly see throughout the movie she's getting more worn down, more tired. and like she's starting to wear less and less professional clothes. By the end, she's just in sweatpants. She looks worse throughout the movie, and the makeup was just the perfect way of showing her trying to like hide that. And then it peaked with her looking in the mirror, trying to see if she looked good, and she like trying to smile.
I really liked when she was trying to smile because I felt like it was kind of a good opposition because she really doesn't smile much throughout the movie after she witnesses this or after the birthday party.
I mean, she doesn't smile much throughout the movie at all. She's a very serious person.
Yeah, but I thought that was a good kind of balance. I mean, it definitely was intentional.
Agreed.
But I liked her character.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
I'll talk about that when we get to the bed.
I liked her character. I mean, I understood it. I understood that she was a professional psychiatrist and that she was clearly had some emotional trauma that she hadn't dealt with that put her there. And yeah, I thought her character was, I don't know if it wasn't great, but it was good. It wasn't bad. And I mean, we've already talked about the scariness. It's a pretty good scary, and I liked it.
It's quite a scary movie, yeah.
Yeah. Jump scares are great. All right, but that's all I have for the good.
So, let's talk about the bad.
The bad.
I thought the main character was really plain. She didn't have a lot of like traits, and her biggest personality trait was that like she became a doctor because she wanted to help people, and that's just a really boring character trait. Is it so just like no one can have any issue with wanting to help people? It's not a flaw. It's just a boring thing.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I will meet you with that I got traits that she's a people pleaser, that she doesn't like conflict.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
Oh, I did. Especially with her and her fiance. You know, she doesn't create conflict with him at all. She actually walks around eggshells around him, you know, until she explodes on him and really blows up because she feels that he wants everything to be perfect. Same thing with her sister. You know, she walks around eggshells on her. She just tries to please her. You know, she shows up to the dinner, stuff like that. So I got a little bit more of that kind of anxious personality type from her.
I guess so. I picked up on anxious, but even that's not really a great personality trait. My biggest complaint about this movie, though, is that it's just such a transparent metaphor for trauma.
Yeah.
Like, they say it.
Yeah.
It opens with a terrible flashback, so right off the bat, you have to see things from the lens of her feeling traumatized by her mother. It's explicitly said that the girl who kills herself in front of her saw her grandpa die.
Yeah.
It's just so upfront about trauma. At some point, they're like, this thing needs trauma. They're like, that's how it lives.
Yeah.
We compared it to Until Dawn. No, Until Dawn. It Follows. And that's not super fair because It Follows is one of the best horror movies ever. So
I still haven't watched it yet.
It's cheap to compare it to this, but It Follows had such a great metaphor for trauma where you didn't even really get it until someone explained it to you. They never said the word trauma. They led you to believe it was about sex. But it just was so boring to me that they said it.
Yeah. This movie did spoon feed you a little bit in the message they were trying to convey.
I don't know. If I wanted to do a metaphor for anything in this movie, I think I'd do depression.
Yeah.
People around you putting on big fake smiles. If you point it out, you're looked at as crazy.
Yeah.
And or just mental illness in general. That would have been interesting.
But even that is still a little foonsped you.
Yeah.
Like she works in a, in a hospital that deals with mental health. And
yeah. It wasn't great.
No, I mean, yeah, there were definitely some moments that it was like, okay, we get it.
On top of that, the ending of the movie was really predictable.
Yeah.
As soon as she got the phone call from Joel or whatever his name is, she when she goes back to her house, she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go where no one lives so that I can't convince anyone. And Joel, as she's going in the house, Joel calls her. As soon as that happened, I'm like, he's obviously going to track her.
Yeah. Which honestly was super annoying too, because he knew that like someone needed to be there. Why would you? I don't know. I understand that you want to help this person, that he clearly still has an emotional connection to her, but it was like, I get it. You want to be helpful, but it's going to win if you're there. Like, the point is she had the right idea of trying to starve it and, not give it another interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. A little infuriating.
Speaking of that scene, I really didn't like it when the monster, first of all, started talking to her, like holding a conversation. It just made it less scary. I didn't think it was I didn't think it was tasteless or anything.
It just cheapened it. Yep. It really.
And then when it became like her mother and it became monstrous, that made it less scary to me because.
Oh, I was still pretty scared.
When it looks human, you have to wonder what like its true form looks like. But
you mean when it? Yes, yeah. I get what you're saying.
When it's the tall mom, it just wasn't scary to me anymore. I knew what it could do then.
Yeah, it was less. You're right. It was less scary, but that creature just coming after her was to me scary.
That's fair.
I don't know. I didn't really get or like the face ripping scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There was at least 2 of them, and they just kind of didn't make sense. And I know both of them were visions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, the first one was. The second one wasn't.
The second one was the creature metaphorically and literally ripping its face off to reveal its true form.
Yeah, but it just, like, didn't fit. I guess the first one was to like, let us know, oh, this is just a vision.
Yeah.
We kind of already got that. And then the second one, it just, like, I thought was kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did like the second one, though. When...
I thought
not when it ripped its face off, but when it crawled inside of her.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a really cool visualization, because we already saw what it looked like to other people, which is just, she's like choking.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see it literally like...
what actually was happening.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was a great reference to the beginning.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
There was a lot of nightmares and like flashbacks, and they were all terrible.
Yeah.
They just... pretty much just told you the context for what was happening. Like, remember Nope? Remember Gordy in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have any context for what was happening. It would have been nice if maybe they didn't do that. I don't know.
No,
It's just dumb.
Again, it's back to that spoon feeding thing where they really just wanted to make sure you got what they were trying to give you.
Yeah, I guess so. So... there were also some pretty bad special effects. They had the old It thing where like they're like, look at this giant monster, and I'm like, yeah, it's scary, but it's also clearly CGI.
Yeah,
that's why practical effects are always better, is because you're limited to what things physically are allowed to look like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it kind of grounds you in terms of what you're presenting. Yeah,
I would have much rather had a more visually. Plus, that means more work for Doug Jones. I'm a Doug Jones stan. I always will be. So, I think that's most of my issues with this movie.
Okay. I mean, I took a lot more issues with some of the side characters.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they didn't really add to the story, but just created drama. Mm-hmm. Like, I hated the sister. They created this whole story that, like the sister was so much older than her, so that's why she wasn't there when the mom died, and it was just not good.
And the sister didn't really play much of a role.
No! There
was no arc with her. Just
she existed.
Mm-hmm.
And did they use it to create tension? It was more just like created drama. It was to provide a birthday party. And have that scene. That's the only reason the sister existed, and they just used her as a device to give us information that we already knew, which was really annoying. And then I didn't like her fiance. To be honest, I got the sense that he really didn't care much about her. And it really pissed me off. And not even in the moment where she was telling him all about what was happening to her. Before that, like, I don't know, I just didn't care for him.
He distressed me because I could recognize him, but I didn't realize he was A-Train. So I was like, "Wait,
Is that all you were focused on?
no." But he just had that uncomfortable, like, because he's a superhero. So I was wearing a mask. I was wearing clothes. So my brain couldn't place him. So I knew him from somewhere. It wasn't really a knock on the movie so much as me being an idiot. So are you ready to talk about the spooky?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. The spooky.
So there's some really good spooky scenes.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites was, so she goes to the hospital and she gets there in her car and then has this vision where she goes in, kills this patient in front of her boss.
Pass the curse along.
Right. But then she wakes up from the patient because the vision, because her boss is actually outside of her car window, like knocks on the window and it's like, Rose, what are you doing here? Like, what's going on? But for a split second, the patient's face pops back up. And I think there was like an audio effect with it too. And then it goes away really quickly. That got me good. I really liked that one.
This is a bit of a digression, but I did like that scene because that was the ultimate, like, it would have been such a great metaphor for mental illness. And that's not the most original thing, but they could have still done it well. Was like, everyone around her sees her showing signs of going crazy. He sees her with a knife and he realizes she's not safe to be alone.
And he doesn't do anything.
Well, he tries to.
That's true.
He did everything he could except try to break the window, and even then she would have just driven away.
Yeah, that's true.
But everyone around her was like cutting her off because she was showing clear signs of mental illness.
Mm.
And they went with trauma, which wasn't even the bad choice. It just was done poorly.
Yeah.
Anyway, my biggest spooky was when the smile monster crawled inside of her. I liked that. I tend not to list like jump scares unless they really get me.
That jump scare really got me. I really liked it.
We've already talked about a couple of the jump scares.
I yelped in the theater, and I tried not to do that. No, this movie though was very spooky, very scary.
A lot of jump scares. I don't know how well it will translate at home. So honestly, here's an interesting thing. I'm about to give it a harsh rating.
Really?
Yes, but I would say you should see it in theaters. It's a pretty good experience. I don't think it's got like lasting quality, but I had a lot of fun watching it.
Okay. Do you want to talk about your impression before you give your rating, or your rating first?
All in all, this movie kind of just, I remember thinking most of the way through the movie, like as we reached Act 3 or whatever, when she's like, I'm going to lock myself away so no one can get hurt by me. I remember thinking, if this movie can stick the landing, this is going to be an all-time great movie. It had decent build-up, great scares, and I was like, if you can make it so that the ending is the best part of the movie, this is going to be fantastic.
Right.
And they didn't.
No,
and so that means that the best part of the movie was like mediocre instead of good. And
okay,
so
that's fair.
Yeah, and so it bums me out. It does a lot well, but overall it doesn't put it together well. Like, it does the sound well, it does the camera work well, the jump scares well, but just it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do very much great, except for the sound. That was really good.
All right, so what do you give it?
I gave it 6 MLB tickets directly behind home plate.
Okay.
Would you give it?
So, I enjoyed this movie a little more than you did. So, I'm giving it...
It's because you saw less of it with your eyes covered.
Listen, there was only one moment with my eyes covered.
Yeah, I probably saw less of it, actually. I kept going to the bathroom.
Okay, wait. Before I give my rating, I'm about to put you on blast.
No.
Yes.
I'm cutting all of this.
You can if you want to, but I think it's hilarious. So I drove us to the theater. Yeah. And Carter gets into my car and he goes, we gotta bring this in. And he's holding an empty water bottle. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, it's my pee bottle, so I don't have to get up during the movie. This is how hyped we were for this movie, that we were really, really excited for this.
If there had been less people in it, I would have used it, but there were more. They were multiple groups in our row.
Yeah. So then I'm like, Carter, you're such an embarrassment. Like, this is the worst thing you could do. Okay, whatever. I still can't believe we brought the bottle in with us. And then Carter gets up to go to the bathroom twice.
Well, I wasn't going to use it.
I know.
Would you rather I've used it?
No, of course not. But Carter just makes fun of me every time I go get up to use the bathroom during a movie. So
I don't make fun of you for that. I don't know where you got that from.
I missed the best part of Sonic. That's how.
Yeah, well, I make fun of you because you missed the best part.
I know. That's true. Carter's timing was way better than mine ever will be.
I got up to miss the fact that Sonic and Tails talked a little bit to each other. Ashley got up to miss the fact that the whole wedding was an undercover police operation to arrest Sonic. With the guy from Criminal Minds as the husband.
Oh, chef kiss. He was perfection. Anyways, though, this is not about Sonic. This is about Smile.
Should be. So my Joseph D'Stasio Memorial...
Wait, I haven't given my rating.
No? Okay.
My rating is an 8.
Really?
Yeah, 8. I really liked it. An 8 well-timed jump scares.
8, huh. I don't think we've ever disagreed this strongly before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was surprised that you were like, I'm gonna rate this harshly. I was like, oh no.
Usually we just enjoy it or don't enjoy it to different levels. I don't think we've ever had a split like this before. All right, so my Joseph D'Stasio memorial line highlight is, "Your mind is so inviting." It was the monster speaking to her.
Oh, I hated it.
I kind of enjoyed it. It was a glimpse into what the monster was like, which we, up until that moment, hadn't seen it. Which is also why I liked when it crawled inside of her.
Yeah, I think the line is just a little cheesy.
A little bit, yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
For this movie, I think we can close the books on it.
Awesome.
Except our disappointment that we thought it was going to be as good as Snow.
I want it to be really good.
Me too.
And I was let down.
It's okay. Listen, it did not let us down as much as some other movies have.
Mm-hmm. So, we're watching next week.
You threw out Hocus Pocus.
Like, threw it out, like, in the trash, or just, I mentioned it? What do you mean by that?
You mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned Hocus Pocus, too.
We can watch Hocus Pocus, too.
But that is also my birthday episode, so. I'm trying to think. Do we have, when does Halloween Ends come out? It comes out the 13th, right?
Maybe. Let me check.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. The next movie we are going to watch is, for like this current week, as in this week coming, is Hocus Pocus 2. But the next movie we release... Oh, wait. No. Oh, you're right. We do. No, we have a week before Halloween Ends come out.
Okay.
But I wanted Hocus Pocus 2 for the 26th, because that's my actual birthday.
So what movies are we thinking of watching? I think we should watch Pray for the Devil. We haven't done any exorcism movies, and I've been seeing that a lot. It is PG-13, and that does make me want to die.
Oh,
but
that worries me.
Yeah.
What else is out right now?
I don't know about right now. I'm just looking at coming up.
Yeah.
Halloween Ends, Pray for the Devil.
Pray for the Devil doesn't come out until...
The Menu. We're going to watch The Menu for sure.
When does that come out?
I don't believe they've announced a date yet.
I was going to say, I don't think that's till November. Oh, let me look at my list. I have a list of this. I'm just an idiot. Okay, hold on. Oh, we did get a recommendation that we should do My Best Friend's Exorcism.
I have a bone to pick with the writer.
Really? Oh, I'm listening to the book right now. You know what we haven't watched that might be actually interesting? A little older, as in a couple months ago.
This is Carter from the future. We will be watching Spirit Halloween, a new movie about Spirit Halloween starring Christopher Lloyd. Usually we get the movie wrong, but today we were so off that I had to go back and re-record it. I have some real beef with Grady Hendrix.
Why? Wait, tell me the beef.
So I don't remember if I loaned you the book, but he wrote this book called The Final Girl Support Group.
Oh, you've talked about that book endlessly.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about it for the podcast now. So the concept is it's a group of final girls from like kind of these off-brand horror movies, but you can clearly tell they're like, this one's Friday the 13th, this one's supposed to be Halloween. But it's like the girls after the horror movie trying to like, you know, stay supported. And It's also like kind of a criticism of the genre is from a point of view of it being sexist, but it's so absurd in its accusations. Like, yes, horror movies are sexist. Yes, they are racist. There are very few black characters, and when they exist, they die. And still, the movie's accusation was like, there's nudity in horror movies of women because men, subconsciously want to kill them and eat them. It's food. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's horror movies like are cheesy. They're built off of like the part of your brain that's involved with sex and fear is very similar. Actually, if I had to describe an emotion to you right now that I'm feeling, I have shaky legs, sweaty palms, my mouth is dry, my heart is pounding. Am I afraid or aroused?
They're the same picture.
Exactly, yes. And so it would be wild if they didn't have gratuitous sex scenes in horror movies.
Yeah.
And so it was just such a wild accusation that was like, he said it was akin to sexual assault, which I thought was just straight up disrespectful.
Yeah, that's...
He said it was like wild that people stopped caring about, that people care more about the killers than the final girls. And I'm like, first of all, characters in horror movies are written terribly. They're not that interesting. Second of all, when you make 8 movies and there's one consistent character, he's gonna be everyone's favorite even if he kills the other characters. Like, Tommy Jarvis was in 3 Friday the 13th movies, and he's fucking beloved because everyone else just dies.
Can I make a statement?
What?
Specifically related to the fact that they care about the killers and not the victims in the movies.
Yeah.
This is that's a reflection of true crime as well. Mm-hmm. That's kind of something that the true crime community is going through, especially with the release of Dahmer, that the families are really upset about it. And it's the same thing.
It's kind of similar to what happened in Breaking Bad, where people hated Skyler because she was the one who was like, quote unquote, ending the fun.
Yeah.
Even though she was being a totally rational adult, like her husband was lying to her and she wanted to figure out why. When she found out it was drugs, she tried to take the kids away. That's totally reasonable response, but from the point of view of a viewer, she's trying to take away the fun.
Right.
And so I guess that's why true crime's in a tough position, because they can't compartmentalize and be like, it's just a movie. They have to acknowledge that this happened to people.
Exactly. And horror is in that space where, because it's a movie, they can. Mm-hmm. But it's the same. It's still the same argument that he's saying, that you don't care about the final girl versus you care about the killer.
And also, the way that Grady Hendrix wrote that book was, in between the chapters, there were various fictional books quoting horror movies. They were fictional, so that it was written by him, and it was taken outside the space of the story. So, like, it has to represent what he thinks, otherwise he wouldn't include it outside of the context of what's happening to the characters.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack, which is why I bought the book, is I was excited for it. And he picked the most surface level shit. He just picked apart the fact that there are a lot of topless scenes of women in... Worse than that, he didn't just pick apart the fact there are topless scenes of women in horror movies. He picked apart, like, that in the wrong direction. There's interesting analysis to be had, and he chose, there's a naked woman, so it's sexist.
Yeah.
It was just such a lame book.
It sounds bland. I'm so disappointed that this book was lame, because you were so excited and hyped it up when you first started reading it.
I was so excited.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm someone who's generally pretty opposed to unnecessary nudity in horror. Mm. And even I'm like, I get it. I could defend it a little.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is that I'm for unnecessary nudity, but then to prove that, it's not a sexism thing, I want there to be more of men too.
Well, yeah, you stand on a good space of wanting both.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's about all we had to talk about today.
Okay, did we decide on a movie?
No. You tell us now.
All right, we're going to do
Spirit Halloween. So with that, do we have anything else to add?
No.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for listening. You can find us on Instagram at Horror Sucks Podcast.
Soon on our website.
Yes, I'm hoping to have this website up and going by either the time this episode comes out or the next one. It's coming out soon, so pay attention. And with that, we'll make a special announcement. Once the website is up, we will be having a little contest. We'll let you know when, but go to the website, sign up for our email list, and one of our listeners from our email list will be chosen to win a special prize. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
And stay spooky.
Yes. Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing done by Carter Rhodes, and music and production done by me. Thank you, everyone.